Somewhere in northern France, in the spring of 1918, the wind carried a scent of rain and mud across the open fields, and soldiers could hear the distant rumble of artillery, though the sound was faint, almost like a warning whispered on the wind. Among them were men who had crossed the Atlantic not just to fight, but to prove something to a world that had long underestimated them. They were the Buffalo Soldiers of the 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions, African-American troops sent into a European war that seemed far removed from the streets of Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia. Few outside their own communities knew their names, and even fewer understood what it meant to serve in a country that demanded sacrifice while offering little recognition. It was a paradox they carried quietly, yet with a pride that never wavered. These men had grown up in towns and cities where segregation dictated their lives, where the color of their skin determined where they could live, where they could eat, even where they could pray. And now, in a foreign land, their bravery and discipline would test not only their physical limits, but also the very perceptions of those who doubted them. The journey had begun months earlier, in crowded train stations, amid the chaos of families saying goodbye, mothers holding sons close, fathers straightening hats and tightening ties that had no meaning beyond the last moment together. They boarded ships that smelled of tar and oil, carrying crates of supplies, blankets, rifles, and dreams too heavy to be spoken aloud. Many had never left the United States, and the vastness of the Atlantic seemed endless, a liminal space between the known and the unimaginable. Once in France, they were assigned to units often under French command, a decision born of both practicality and prejudice. Some American commanders were unwilling to place African-American soldiers alongside white troops in combat, a reflection of the social tensions that had followed them across the ocean. The French, however, welcomed them differently. They respected discipline, skill, and courage over skin color. This was the first taste of a world where their valor could be measured on merit rather than prejudice. Life at the front was difficult. Trenches cut through the landscape like scars. Rain turned the earth to a thick, clinging mud, and the nights were filled with the distant cries of men and animals alike. Yet within the adversity, camaraderie flourished. Soldiers shared stories of home, recited poems, hummed jazz tunes quietly in the dark, and found small comforts in letters sent across the Atlantic. These were the moments that reminded them of why they endured, for families, for communities, for dignity in the face of indifference. One of the most remarkable aspects of their service was how they integrated music into military life. The Buffalo Soldiers were not just fighters, they were musicians. Brass bands and drum corps moved through camps and bivouacs, lifting spirits and reminding everyone that identity and culture could be a source of strength. At times, the French locals would gather to hear them play, marveling at the rhythms and harmonies, unaware that these soldiers' music carried the weight of struggle and hope from a distant land. Despite their courage, the challenges they faced were relentless. Equipment was often outdated, rations inconsistent, and communication sometimes delayed. Orders came and went through officers who did not always understand their men's experience or language. Yet they adapted, improvising solutions, mentoring younger soldiers, and keeping morale alive with humor and ingenuity. It was a test of patience as much as bravery. For many, the true battle was not the enemy across the trenches, but the skepticism and doubt surrounding their own presence. Over time, their reputation grew. German forces learned to respect them not merely as American soldiers, but as formidable units who could endure hardship, move efficiently, and hold positions others might abandon. And in the quiet moments between engagements, the Buffalo Soldiers reflected on the irony. They were fighting for ideals they were not always allowed to enjoy at home, proving the very humanity that others tried to deny. The letters sent to loved ones often spoke less of battles and more of perseverance, unity, and the small victories of daily survival. When the armistice finally came in November 1918, the soldiers of the 92nd and 93rd Divisions returned to America as both heroes and strangers. Parades were held in some cities, though recognition was uneven, and newspapers often ignored their service or framed it in condescending terms. Yet within their communities, their deeds were celebrated, stories told and retold in homes, churches, and street corners. The veterans became mentors, teachers, and musicians, carrying the weight of memory and the quiet authority of experience. Their story, largely overlooked by mainstream histories, offers a lesson about resilience and the power of identity in shaping action. These men navigated the complexities of war, prejudice, and cultural misunderstanding, yet they found ways to contribute meaningfully, leaving an enduring mark on military history. They taught the world, without fanfare, that courage can manifest not only in physical feats, but in consistency, discipline, and the refusal to be diminished by circumstance. Perhaps the most enduring question they leave us with is subtle yet profound. What talents and strengths in our own communities remain unrecognized simply because they do not fit into conventional measures of power? The Buffalo Soldiers of World War I remind us that history is not only made in moments of glory or violence, but also in those acts of perseverance and integrity that quietly redefine what is possible. In a sense, their legacy is not measured in medals or newspaper headlines, but in the generations of Americans who learned, even unknowingly, to see courage and dignity in unexpected places. As we walk through Harlem today, or through any city shaped by the echoes of those who came before, the story of these soldiers resonates. Their sacrifices, their humor, their creativity, and their persistence are threads woven into the fabric of a society that continues to grapple with the tension between promise and reality. Listening to their journey, we are reminded that history often elevates the loudest voices, yet the quietest ones, those who endure, adapt, and maintain humanity under pressure, may teach us the most enduring lessons. And so, when we consider the lives of the Buffalo Soldiers in the Great War, we might ask ourselves, which stories have we overlooked in our own time, and what lessons are waiting quietly in the experiences of those who acted with courage when no one else seemed to notice? It is a question without an easy answer, but one that history insists we carry forward, because the past is never truly past. It lives in how we choose to see, remember, and honor it.